Hey, good Monday morning, everybody. Peel yourself off the mat Monday here on Defo on 5. Jeff DeForest and a very dapper look at Mike Lubie Lubitz. You have upgraded your wardrobe for the show, Mike Lubie Lubitz. How are you? A very triumphant weekend, perhaps, and it seems like centuries ago already, doesn't it? But Friday night completing, or at least continuing the platform for what is the greatest winter sports season in the history of South Florida, going all the way back to the two teams. Can we still count that? I mean, that seems like it was ages ago. Also, FAU and UM. Think about that. If that was all that we had this year, and the Heat and the Panthers had both missed the playoffs, you would have still had to say that it was a phenomenal winter season for South Florida sports teams. But with both the Heat as an eighth seed and the Panthers as an eighth seed clinching on Friday night, the same night, a bid in their respective Eastern Conference finals. Phenomenal, Luby. I don't know. How did you hold up? The Heat game was typically hard fought. Came down to the final seconds. Surprisingly, the star of the game. It happens once in a while. On the road, Jalen Brunson, who was dynamite throughout the entire series and really ignited a lot of conversation about him being among the elite players in the NBA. I know you don't want to include him in that category just yet, Luby. One season is not a superstar make, but certainly there were signs there that this guy was really, really something. And maybe while playing a second fiddle to Luka Doncic in Dallas, was just ready to pop and emerge as a star. But who makes the bonehead play at the end of the game? After I don't know. What did you think about this ruling? You had Gabe Vincent smack him in the face. Brunson, he gets the two free throws, and they get the ball back to Knicks. They go from being down 6 to down 2, get the ball back again, have a chance to tie the game, and instead they throw the ball away and end up losing the series in 6 games. So the Heat find themselves in the finals now, and a dramatic turnaround in the second half of the ball game between Boston and Philadelphia. Close right up until the half. Boston leads by 3, and they erupt. I think it was a 33-10 quarter that the Celtics had in the third quarter of that ball game, and it was lights out. Jason Tatum looking great. But the Celtics were very much Jekyll and Hyde, up and down throughout the latter stages of the season. They would play a sensational game like they did yesterday and then lay an egg, as they did a couple of times, even at home so far in the playoffs. Heat, Boston Celtics, Louis, did you get what you wanted in this spot?
I mean, I'd rather face the Sixers. I think the Celtics are a better team, but I I think the Heat would be the underdog against both teams, and I think the Heat could beat, and we've seen the Heat beat both teams. So the fact that they took the Heat out last year in 7 would be cool to get the revenge factor, and they now have faced in the Eastern Conference Finals 2 out of the last 3 years, or 2 out of the last 4 years, I guess. So to see who can be that third, times the charm winner or second time winner would be really cool. Look, Friday night was insane.
Well, that's something. I mean, the Panthers winning in overtime on the road in Toronto. Just incredible. All right, let's take a look at the Heat and the Celtics real quickly. The Celtics have more firepower, you would have to say, overall, and more depth than the Philadelphia 76ers had. They don't have Joel Embiid, who disappeared in this final game, which I don't know that they threw shade on his MVP status. He certainly was deserving across the 82 games of the regular season. And we saw that he has immense value to the Philadelphia 76ers. But he had an off game on the same night that James Harden did another Game 7 vanishing act. My God. That was a weak effort by Harden, who may no longer be with the 76ers. He has stated his desire to go back to the Rockets, of all things, which may be where he belongs at this stage. In spite of drawing high praise throughout certain spots of the postseason, Harden ends up with 9 points, 3 for 11, and just an horrendous all around game in the matchup against the Celtics yesterday when the Philadelphia 76ers crumbled, as we said, in the third quarter. And then that was it. And maybe that was to be anticipated. Doc Rivers' status certainly appears to be shaky, does it not? I was reading an article online today that the Sixers sealed their fate several years ago when they signed Doc Rivers as their head coach, that they would never, never complete the process and win a championship. A lot of people feel that way. I don't know that Doc Rivers, in and of himself. I mean, Tatum was just on fire in this ball game. I'm not sure that he was even poorly defended. He ends up with 51 points, a monster game, most ever in a Game 7 in NBA history in any series,
That's crazy.
finals. mid-range, through the playoffs, whatever, early on. 51, 13, and 5 for Jason Tatum. That's going to be a tough stop for the Miami Heat. And, they double team you with Jaylen Brown, who's certainly no slouch. I mean, you can't pay too much attention to one guy because the other will destroy you. As for the rest of the matchups, I don't know. I mean, the Celtics bench was certainly significant over Philadelphia in the postseason series that they just played. Goes 7 games. Were they vulnerable? Yes. I mean, they lost that first game at home when Joel Embiid sat, and they've lost a couple of really questionable games in spots where you would expect a team of the Celtics' caliber and regular season efficiency to prevail. So, what? Somewhat of a toss-up this series, Lubie. What do you think? Or you'd have to give a slight edge. Home court advantage, of course, was big yesterday. The fans were great in the TD Garden, and you would have to give probably a slight edge in the series, at least to the Boston Celtics. No, I don't see any odds on the series posted here in my
The
beloved degenerate page in the New York Post.
the first game, the Celtics are favored by 8 already. So there's a heavy Celtics lean. Yes, I think it'll be a dogfight. The positive is Butler definitely seemed to not be himself, but he's getting almost a week off between game 6 and game 1. So I'm hoping that means he'll be 100% or damn near. And hopefully their guys will hit shots. I mean, that the Knicks stayed alive because Brunson was great. The refs were abysmal, and he couldn't shoot. That's what's actually most astounding thing about that is, whereas in Game 5 they kept chucking, Game 6 they finally took my advice, and that's why they ended up winning. Was they stopped shooting
Really, you
threes?
phoned Eric Spoelstra
No, I don't know.
before the game and said, "Hey, listen, Spo, quit chucking those bombs from the Coke machine and
They
let's
just
get
did.
inside, see if we can't get Bam Adebayo going."
They did. They said whether they look. They know a lot more basketball than me. If I was screaming, guys, just stop shooting it. Like, you're not hitting shots. They did. They like Love, who was just chucking it. Vincent, who was chucking it. Stop. Martin hit a couple big ones, and Robinson hit one or two. But they weren't living and dying by the three. They were going to the basket, and they found a way to win. And but you're gonna have to hit threes. Like, the Celtics are really good defensively,
Yeah.
and the Celtics are gonna score. Like, they're not the Knicks. The Knicks are an atrocity on offense. Like, the Celtics are not. The Celtics.
The Celtics are a more well-blended team, you would have to say,
Oh yeah,
with more depth than the Knicks had. The Knicks had their top 3 guys, but they didn't always seem to be completely in sync, did they? Especially Julius Randle, who's being panned now, and I mean, he even had his poster at the Garden defaced by the fans, which is disgraceful. But nonetheless, the conversation reverted right back to can we possibly win with Julius Randle, or do we need to move on from this guy? And that was what the Knicks fans and the press were using as a narrative before the season. Then Randall had a great year, made the All Star team, but in the postseason, he wasn't exactly as sharp as he was during the regular season, and had a lousy end to the postseason play. So what wasn't as big of a factor. Boston doesn't necessarily have to rely on one guy so much. Tatum has had some off games and they've won. So and Jaylen Brown has been great throughout the playoffs. Very, very consistent scorer. They have enough strength inside. Al Horford, as Leslie Visser put it, what works his tail off in virtually every situation. And, they may have an advantage inside there between Williams and Horford, having a little bit more impact on the inside than the Miami Heat have. But I'm going to say Celtics in 6, Libby. What about you?
I
Can
don't
they
know.
win? That would mean that they clinch it on the Heat's home wood, which maybe that's a little far fetched. But Celtics in 7. Let's make it Celtics in 7. What do you think?
I would say that. That's what I would say. I'm hoping that he went, obviously, and I think the Heat are going to be a tough match for the Celtics because they don't just give up. But they have the home court, and I don't know what you're going to get from the other guys. Like, the fact that they fell apart against the Knicks, who aren't good, scares the crap out of me. Like, the way they play versus the Bucks, they could beat anyone, but we haven't seen that. They literally, Gabe Vincent was a fucking joke, to pardon my French in this. Like, he was bad. They were
Hey,
literally.
it took you congratulations. Only about 10 minutes to
Yeah,
start cursing about the
I'm not
Heat.
angry this morning. Like, literally, we're leaving him wide open, and he was like, okay, and he would take the three, and he wasn't even close.
Yeah.
Like, and that's big. They need those guys because they're not as deep. They're not as talented as the Celtics. So where they make up the gap is having those undrafted guys, having 2 or 3 of those guys every night. Struce raised his level, but everyone else Love. And yeah, I get it. These are guys, are you counting on them, you're in trouble. But that's the thing. They counted on them versus the Bucks and they came through. And that's what they need to win, is those guys to step up. And those guys were trash versus the Knicks. Like, they were horrendous.
Well, we'll see what happens. All right, at least we're there. That
Yes,
the
we are.
series is slated to get underway on Wednesday. I don't know if this is official yet, but the Carolina Panthers series, have they not announced the schedule and solidified it? Supposedly, is going to start on Thursday. So we get a couple of nights off from the local teams being in action. Conference finals, I guess, are going to begin Thursday in Carolina. Carolina, very good team. You have a characterization here. Do you want to know the synopsis on the Carolina Hurricanes, Lubie? Second best record in the NHL, behind the Boston Bruins, who the Heat have already handled. And let's see. There you go. Give you a little synopsis here. I'm stealing this out of the newspaper, but nonetheless, this seemed to capsulize everything that I was going to say about the Carolina Hurricanes. No? All right.
Okay.
They have, two goalies. They've been working in and out about equally throughout the course of the regular season. Frederick Anderson and Antti Ranta, both veteran goaltenders. Both did well this year. And they're not sure who they're going to rely on in this conference finals because one guy was injured in each of the two series that they played so far. So they were more or less forced to go with, they went, I guess, with Ranta early and Frederick Anderson in this last series. Remains to be seen who Brindamore is going to use. He's the coach, Rob Brindamore, of the Carolina Hurricanes. And here was their theory behind rotating the two goalies as equally as they did during the regular season, Luby. The hope was that avoiding workhorse loads would keep them fresh and minimize injury risks for a team. And here's the key, Luby. Known for an aggressive forecheck to win puck battles, maintain possession, and keep the pressure on opponents at the opposite end of the ice. There it is. There's my analysis.
Okay.
Maintain puck pressure. That's the key to the game. Can Carolina maintain puck pressure? What do you think, Louis?
I have no idea. I know that Carolina's been
What the
fucking
hell is
scary.
that?
Carolina's been scary. I know that. Like, I mean,
No, they were very efficient so far in the postseason. I mean, at times, I guess they had that one bad game against the Devils, but they won that series in 5. And, or what, 5 games, right? Against the New Jersey Devils.
yes, they did.
They lost that one game 8-4. Other than that, they played very well. First series was very contentious, but they managed, I think they won that one in 6. So they've been very good. I mean, of the teams in the playoffs so far, they have been the most dominant in their 2 series as compared to any of the others. We know that the Panthers' 5-game win over Toronto, not too shabby, right? And beating Boston in 7 was no joke either. But, very much alive. Underdogs in the series, your Florida Panthers should get underway on Thursday, I believe, for the series. The Carolina Hurricanes are like 3-2 favorites, maybe. Let me see. You have to. Nope, not quite. You have to lay 130 to win 100. They're minus 130. The Hurricanes 130 to win 100. You get plus 110 if you bet the Panthers in the series. Does that sound a little bit like some inequity there? Like the vig is pretty large, the gap. You only win 110 if you bet the Panthers. Now, if they equal out, think about that. If they equal out the betting, doesn't matter to the bookies who wins. They're getting that gap between the 20-point difference essentially that you're betting into. So, it's good to be the bookie in this case. If you can equalize the betting. Well, what would you think? Majority of bets come in on Carolina. Panthers still relatively unknown, 8th seed. And supposedly, I don't know, is this true? The Heat get no national media attention, zero respect from the national media. You have,
They get no attention, or whatever attention they get, it's negative.
all
It's
right,
bad. Yeah.
people are wondering what the hell they're doing there. All right, that
Yes.
was just part of it. A couple of other things. The Western Conference Finals gets underway tonight. That gets underway tonight with the Lakers and the Denver Nuggets. Nuggets favored in the series, favored by 5.5 in the ball game tonight against the Los Angeles Lakers, who I told you not to sleep on. I'm not sure that we're not looking at the champion already in the Denver Nuggets. Did they not look like the best team of the teams that remain by far?
Yes.
I don't know if it's by far, but they look better than the 2 teams coming out of the East
Yep.
overall, and I think they're better than the Lakers. And with the home court edge, I'm going to go ahead, Mr. Chalk. There's a bold statement. And say that the Denver Nuggets end up winning it all, in spite of the fact that I've been telling you all season long not to sleep on the Lakers. We shall see.
Yeah, I think the Nuggets win this in 6, and that's the thing in the end. Look, I'd love to avenge the loss to the Celtics. I don't see any way in hell that he beat the Nuggets. So, I think the Nuggets win this in 6, and I think they beat anyone from the East in 5 or 6. Maybe the Celtics duke it out because the Celtics get a friendly whistle, and Tatum goes off in these games. But Tatum also sucks in games, and he's done that every series.
Yes.
Jokic never. That's the thing about Embiid, and I give Embiid the MVP just because they want a new story. But Jokic never has a bad game. Like Jokic, no matter what his games are, his stat lines are always like 30, 15, and 12. Like every game is a good game.
Yeah.
And that's not the case for the Lakers. And that's definitely not the case for the teams in the East. Like you don't know what you're getting from the Heat. And even the Celtics, you don't know what you're getting from their parts every game. As long the problem for the Nuggets is they've always had injuries. So everyone's like, well, they haven't shown us. No, they've been injured. They don't have Murray. They don't have Gordon. They don't have Porter Jr. Those 3 guys are always injured. They're not injured now.
No.
He's injured. And they have been the most consistent team.
They look good.
Playoffs.
No doubt about it. I mean, excellent analysis there, Louis. The Las Vegas Golden Knights clinched a spot in their Western Conference final with a victory last night. So they take out Edmonton in 6 games. Pretty impressive. Win that game on the road. Won at 5-2. We're down 1-0 early on, and I believe 2-1 later on, and then rallied. Scored 3 quick goals. All 3 scored by the former Panther, Jonathan Marchessault.
Of course.
So we gave up in the expansion draft. My God. Well, we always be haunted by the moves of Dale Talon. Expansion draft, they gave this kid up. He had a good year or 2 for the Panthers, had he not? Marchessault, very popular player. We let him go in expansion. And then Riley Smith, still a big staple of the Las Vegas Golden Knights' success. Of course, I think we traded him to the Las Vegas Golden Knights in their expansion year. And they have been linchpins for that team who have outperformed any pedigree that any expansion team could ever hope to represent themselves as having and make their way into the conference finals. They will face the winner of the Kraken Dallas Stars series, which concludes tonight. Seattle Kraken trying to make Panther-like history and get to the conference finals in only their second year in existence. Panthers did it in 3 and then went on, of course, to the Stanley Cup in that series against the Colorado Avalanche where they got swept. But the Seattle Kraken writing a pretty good Cinderella story. A lot of people think that comes to an end tonight against the Dallas Stars, who are also heavily favored in this game. You have to lay 190 to win 100 on the Dallas Stars in this game tonight. What do you think, Libby? Would you take a shot with the expansion team plus 160?
Yeah, why not? I mean, the Kraken, that last game, the Stars, anytime that it seemed like they were going to do something, I switched over after the Panther game, and it was interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what it was. That was Saturday when there was nothing on. There was no sports Saturday, and that was the one game on. So I actually watched a lot of it. I'm like, oh shoot, this Kraken team, and their crowd was ridiculous.
Great crowd, yeah.
That was nuts. I was like, wow, I'm good for them.
They're on the road tonight for the Game 7 against Dallas, so they'll have to really muster one up, but be a hell of a story, and it would be, like a 5th-year expansion team. How many years have the Las Vegas Golden Knights been around? 4 or 5 years? And they would be going against a second-year expansion team, proving that Gary Bettman is not the evil sorcerer that most commissioners are. Teams are in there with a shot. All right, PGA tournament is this week, so I'll be involved in another pool, so I'll be talking about that, whining and fetching about my bets and how they didn't work out. Jason Day was a winner yesterday at the Byron Nelson Classic, shot 8 under or something, maybe 10 under, I don't know, 62 he shot in a final round to eclipse everybody. I guess the conditions were enough to bring even the most difficult of courses to its proverbial knees. And so they'll go in the PGA tournament, and that's coming up this week. We'll get into that a little bit more later on. The Preakness draw is today, so I'll find out who's running in the second leg of Racing's Triple Crown. Mage is going to be in the race, so there's a chance for a Triple Crown winner still existing. Other than that, a lot of new faces going to be showing up at Pimlico Racecourse on Saturday for the Preakness Stakes. That should be a lot of fun. Join us later on the Defo Show, South Florida Live. We ask you to subscribe if you're inclined and you like what we do here. I think you'll like the expanded version. Later on today, we'll talk with former Miami Heat original member of the Miami Heat cast, Grant Long, who's a great analyst now. He works with the Detroit Pistons primarily, So I guess he has plenty of time to look around the rest of the league because there wasn't much to watch there. Except these young guys are ready to gel. The process is about to click in. And what if they get Wemby? That's what he's thinking about. I wonder what kind of voodoo he's got going there. Imagine you're working the Pistons broadcast. They're like one of the worst teams in the league for the last several years. All of a sudden, you get this Wembanyama, and the next thing you know, you combine that with a bunch of other stars that they picked up, young stars. That would be interesting, wouldn't it, Louis? I don't know if that's enough right there to turn that whole thing around, but you would have to think they'd be
Yeah,
contenders, no?
I think they'd be a playoff team.
Yeah. Very good. All right. A lot of fun being with you. Peel yourself off to Matt Monday here on Defo on 5. Defo show coming up on South Florida Live, as we said, from Mike Lubie Lubitz. Very dapper looking Mike Lubie Lubitz. And not as cynical as usual. You haven't discounted either team as a possibility to emerge out of this. How amazing would it be to see either one of these teams make their way into the championship round? Who do you give the bigger chance to? That's a good question. I think both have about an equal opportunity. Maybe 40-60
Yeah.
chance of making it.
Yep. I was going to say both are the underdog, but they're not heavy. To me, they're going to get treated like heavy underdogs, and they're not. The fact that
No.
they did the routes they did, that they have star players that every team is sort of scared of, says it all to me. I mean,
If the Panthers could roll by both Toronto and the Boston Bruins, then they certainly would loom to be very competitive against anybody, including Carolina. And I'm not sure about these teams out of the West. They're hard to gauge. I don't know. Is it the same as the NBA that the Western teams play a little different style than the Eastern teams?
it used to be. I don't know if it still is.
Yeah, hard to tell in hockey.
Yeah.
Some more abstract two sport to try and analyze like that. All right, we'll see you tomorrow on the next edition on Defo on 5 right here on 5 Reasons Sports Network. Thanks for watching.